I'd like to welcome you guys to the very first SoundCloud Creator Forum. As you know, SoundCloud empowers listeners and creators like yourselves to share your music on a global scale. But in particular, the hip-hop community is like the nucleus of our ecosystem right now, for obvious reasons, as you guys know. Look at the charts. But like I said, we wanted to bring this experience, we wanted to introduce this experience to A3C for that reason, because of what A3C stands for, because it stands for collaboration and bringing people together from all over the nation. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and have our panelists for the Business of Music panel come on out, and then we'll get started. So I'm gonna have each of the panelists introduce themselves. Jason, go ahead and go first.
I'm first?
Yes.
I'm Jason Reddick. I work for ASCAP Atlanta, literally 200 feet away if you ever want to come by the office. I work for PRL ASCAP. We protect your money, collect on your royalties as the music is streamed, placed in movies, and licensed.
I'm Eve Carmel-Pierre, and I am an agent at ICM, specifically in concerts, but I also deal with branding and film and TV.
I'm J. Rich ENT. I'm an engineer in quality control music. Most notably for being an offsets engineer. I'm also an A&R at Mono Music Group, which is a Timbaland's label.
Yo, so my name is Coda. I'm a hip-hop artist from Brooklyn, New York City, and that's what I do.
All right, so we're gonna hop right into it. And I'm gonna start with Jason, since this question is heavily in relation to what you do.
Okay.
What is a PRO?
So it stands for Performance Rights Organization, and I think a lot of people get it confused on the publishing side where they assume we're a publisher. And we act kind of similar to a publisher as far as helping you with your intellectual property when it comes to your writing, but we don't do what a publisher does, which is exploit your music to put it in the right places and get music placement. We have capabilities, but we don't do that. What we primarily do is if your music is actually played on the radio and not just one time. That's another thing people get confused about. Oh, I heard my song on the radio. And then I ask, oh, how many times? Oh, they played it one time. That doesn't generate any kind of money. But if it actually plays on the radio and it has generated significant amount of income, we collect on that on your behalf and pay you out for that.
So what does your day-to-day look like, though? You're saying we. What do you do? What are you doing?
My day-to-day isn't typical. I typically meet with a lot of writers. I meet with a lot of producers, a lot of artists, and we might sit down and figure out, if you wrote a song with somebody you know is coming out, did you work on your splits? Do you know how much you're actually getting paid and how much do you own of that song? Do you have a pub deal in place? Are you meeting your, what they call MDRCs, which is your requirements to fulfill your contract obligations? Are you actually gonna meet that with this particular record? Is it gonna come out and you actually get credit for it? Is it a single? Because there is a difference between just getting a placement on an album and it actually being a single. If it's a single, you're gonna tend to generate more money. If it's just an album cut, that's great for, some self-esteem and you get paid a couple dollars, but it doesn't give you the same amount of revenue or recognition if it's an actual single. And knowing your splits too, because a song, we break it down different ways, but the song is 100%. 50% goes to the writers, 50% goes to the actual producers, and you gotta decide how much of that 50% that you own. So if an artist comes in and they're like, well, I'm the artist, I'm putting this out, I'm taking 20% of that, then you already know you're gonna split 30% between, if it's just you, you get the 30. If it's you and other writers, you guys have to split that how you guys feel it needs to be split.
Who delegates those splits?
Anybody that's involved with it. So there's two different methods. On the urban side, it's anybody that's involved with it. In Nashville, they have this thing where it's almost like if you're in the room and you contributed, we break it down evenly. So it just always depends on the genre, who you're working with, who you're tied to, and how the splits are going to be done.
Got you. We can pivot over to our artists and producers over there, since I'm sure you guys have lots to say about this. When it comes to splits, how big are relationships involved in how much you split and how much you don't split? If it's your homie on the track with you, is there a difference versus if it's somebody you found on SoundCloud,
To be honest, it's just whatever is fair. The key is, I think, is getting it handled, hopefully right when the song is created, because it always gets harder to just establish splits when the song starts gaining momentum.
I kind of try to keep it the same all around the board whenever I do splits with people. I think I give anybody that features on my track, 25%, and I know that's probably high.
It's very high. You're very
That's,
gracious.
yeah.
But I don't.
Everybody should do a track with you.
I don't.
Y'all
Very
find
cool.
I don't
him,
do a
find
lot
him
of-
tomorrow at the
Oh, wow.
networking mixer.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of features. You know
Oh,
what
okay.
I mean? Like, so,
Man, that's very gracious.
so I give it to the homie one time. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like, but yeah, I think it's just I just keep it the same.
Okay. Well, you mentioned publishing is different than obviously a PRO. What did you look for in terms of your distribution partner?
My advice for is to put it everywhere, you know, or really if you have like a certain marketing budget and it can't be spread out through all socials, focus it on one platform so you can put it all on one and have all directions on one. But my whole thing is always it's like there are some people that have this, that don't have that don't have this, that don't have that only listen to music like this. So the more people, the more outlets your music is, that's more money, that's more people that could listen to it, and all that. So you got to have a relationship with every platform.
Yeah, and I think that's too, when you're going into this as an artist, I find that I meet with a lot of them, they don't have a plan. You need to put a plan together. You need to know what resources you have available and what resources you're lacking, and then put a plan together to figure out how to fill those holes. So if you have a manager that knows the music scene and can get you in the clubs, that's cool, but can he get you on tour? Does he know Eve? Or can he get you in the right room and know the actual engineers that can mix your stuff properly so it sounds better? Or can he get you a feature? Like, you need to know what your manager knows. Like, does he have a relationship with SoundCloud, and can you be featured on some of these things that they have going on? You need to put a plan in place and know what you're lacking, what you got going on. Use a whiteboard, put it together. These are my pros of what I got going on. These are my cons, what I need to figure out, and try to fill those holes and build a team that way, or figure out how to get it on your own. Whichever way you do it, you need to figure out how to get it done and actually have a real plan. Because I find a lot of artists freestyle and just put the music out and walk away and like, oh, it's gonna take off. And that no song ever just takes off. There's something that happened behind the scenes, that the button was pushed, it was put in front of the right person, somebody discovered it, retweeted it, whatever. That's how it came out.
Even as Jay Rich said, not only in terms of the consumer finding a way to sort of hear your music, as an agent, I look at YouTube, I look at SoundCloud, I'm looking at all these different platforms to actually discover new talent. So, you know, you have to sort of, like he said, make sure that your music is everywhere because you don't know who's listening.
Now I want to kind of pivot the conversation. And when do you think is a good time to start talking to a lawyer?
It just depends. I think if you have something, you should talk to a lawyer, because it's hard to find a reputable lawyer that's going to rep something that there's nothing there. I think that's what happens is a lot of people go into this and say, oh, I'm gonna be an artist, but never recorded it or never wrote down any lyrics. But then he's like, well, somebody said I need to go talk to a lawyer. But if you don't have anything for a lawyer to represent or negotiate or legalize or whatever, then it doesn't matter. So at least have something first that you know. A lot of people say, oh, I didn't know this song was a hit. I feel like if you're in the studio enough and you're doing your job, you know a song when you hear it. You know it's gonna go. You know it has the potential to go. That's when you should go ahead and get everything done before it comes out. Because you have a lot of people, oh, I'll just wait till it comes out. And then once it comes out, that's when everybody forgets. Oh, remember you was gonna give me 25%? Oh, this is a hit now. This song's made $2 million. That 25 don't sound so good anymore. So go ahead and get it taken care of up front.
Okay. Well, on that note, so if I'm a creator that doesn't have millions of streams on SoundCloud, so on and so forth, doesn't have that cachet of okay, now I can talk to a lawyer, what could I do to protect my rights in that case?
I mean, well, that's what PROs are in place for, to help you register your music. But then
See what
also,
I did there?
I see what you're trying to lead. But also, too, I think in this day and age with the internet, there's a lot of free materials and a lot of free resources. And so there's actually lawyering groups that have to do so much pro bono work every year. And so if you get in front of them and you do that,
That's a gem
then,
right there. Y'all hear
you know what I'm
that?
saying? You can go. They have that. It's called Free Lawyer Foundation or something like that. And by law, they have to do like 100 hours a year of free legal work. And as long as your case isn't some type of litigation case where they have to go and sue somebody, if it's just a matter of setting up paperwork or setting up businesses, they'll actually do it for you for free. And you actually have a reputable lawyer who has a huge firm behind them that can set that up for you, because they're required by law to do that.
Now I want to talk about miscellaneous streams of income. How did you leverage your brand in order to build multiple streams around your bank account?
Well, I've had my clothing brand for 10 years or something like that, since I was in high school. And I kind of just kept it in my back pocket, you know? And as Coda the Friend kind of grew, then I was like, all right, this is the perfect time to like, you know, resurface it and bring it back. And it started selling like crazy, you know? It's kind of like my personal merch, but it's my brand at the same time. And so it's like, I use the brand to, you know, even sell my own merch. As an independent artist, you could decide, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna add this to I'm gonna start, all you have to do is, now you got Instagram where you could, you know, be out there. You could show, you could show yourself and you could really just be yourself. And through that, revenue streams where people gravitate towards you. And you really just have to be yourself and make good music and just kind of keep doing the stuff that people like about you.
So it's safe to say that who you are is what attracted or what made your brand appealing to your fan base. Yeah. And then you just so happen to make some fire music.
That's the
so you
source
leveraged your social media brand, but you were authentic in it too, though, right? Like
yeah,
you didn't.
You have to be authentic because it's like people are just gonna constantly get on the bandwagon, you know? And you never have to worry about, you know, trying to be something because you already are who you are.
Yeah. So dialing back to 10 years ago when you started your clothing line, it wasn't part of your strategy to then all of a sudden make music, right?
Nah, not at all.
At what point did you decide you wanted to make music? At what point did you realize that was another stream of income that could come from your likeness?
I didn't think about it like that at the time. Like, music is just something, it's like a passion project of mine. You know, I've been playing trumpet since I was like in the 2nd grade. Then I started playing keyboard and guitar and bass, and I started rapping and producing. Then it was like, I just started making music just because like, it's kind of my roots. It's kind of like who I've always been.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what money could be made from music. You know, like, it's so funny. You should see me like years ago at like record label meetings and them asking me like, you know, what do you want? Like, what do you want? And I'm like, bro, I don't.
You just want to make music.
I don't know how much money could be made. I see people that are superstars, but I don't think about it like that could be me. You know what I mean? Like, as I've grown into the thing, I've realized that, yeah, money could be made. And that's a good thing. But,
do you think that now, like looking back, since you didn't have that mindset back when you first started, you think if you would have had that mindset when you first started, you would have more income now? Or you think it would have still played out about the same?
I didn't know I was going to be where I'm at right now. I didn't know. I think we're still learning what streaming is, what streaming money is, and we're still learning about Instagram and social media, and it's kind of just the wild, wild west where anything can happen, and every day the internet is changing, and every day, like, it's like they're still trying to figure out what's the best way to calculate streaming money, you know, and what's like, we're still working on that.
Here's more from Eves in regards to touring, because that is a large portion of an artist's income.
Touring is basically, you know, when you're ready for the consumer to touch and feel you. You're selling them an experience, and you have to figure out what you're going to do to make them want to spend, whether it's $15, whether it's $12, whether it's $75, whether it's $100. That's someone's disposable income, especially in this economy. You have to figure out how you tap into that to make that person want to spend their money to come see you perform.
Gotcha.
And that's in figuring out what your music is. You can put out music, but if it's not hot, it's not hot. It's not going to sell a ticket. You're selling them a full package. I've seen the hottest artists not be able to sell tickets. I've seen tours go up in arenas and be taken down because tickets couldn't be sold. We can talk about, you know, I'm not going to name names, but I think we've all seen several tours that have gone up recently in the past couple years that have been taken down because they couldn't sell tickets. You see festivals come and go because they can't sell those large ticket pricings to consumers. So you have to figure out how you figure out what your music's going to sound like and what you're going to sell to someone to actually make them want to come see you perform.
Okay, so say you have figured that out. How do you determine where to start or when to start touring, or like what?
I think when you're ready to perform, when you know that you have an actual show that's worthy of 30 to 45 minutes being on stage, and you can actually perform that, and that looks good, and you put the time and effort into putting together a show, then you're ready to sort of tour. You can have a hit record and bomb on stage, and if that's what you're showing the consumer, that next time around, your money's not going to look the same. they're not gonna buy your tickets. So it's really sort of making sure that you have everything in place and that performance is paramount.
So, as a booking agent, one of the many things you do, when it's time to book your artists for different shows, how do you pitch them?
I mean, I work with management, I work with the label. It's knowing what package you have. So if the music is there, if you as an artist, when they say you're authentic, if I can sit there and sort of translate that to a buyer, in addition to the consumer already sort of being tapped into who you are and what you're providing them, it's knowing that you have those sort of indicators to then know, hey, I'm gonna go out and perform. And not to say that it's a home run and it's a perfect formula, but at least you know you have a starting point. Yeah. After that, it's basically just building your touring history properly. It's saying, hey, you know what? Let me take the time to sell 250 tickets. After selling those 250 tickets, let me go now and maybe I can sell 500 to 750 tickets. It's actually taking the time to actually build a story.
Right now, with the pace and acceleration of everything, how do you think artists or even producers can stay relevant in this ever-changing ecosystem?
The way that engineers and producers could actually elevate is networking diagonally. A lot of producers want to get with the biggest artists and they're like, yo, I'm finna just pull up on Jay-Z and be like, yo, hop on this shit. But who knows, Jay-Z might have an assistant, or Jay-Z might have this new intern that you send him your music, he really digging your stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then you kick it with him a few times and the next thing you know, he tells you to pull up to the studio and Jay-Z's there. You get what I'm saying? You just gotta start like really thinking more deep in, I guess, networking and how to put your stuff out there and not just trying to jump so high, but like I call it networking diagonally.
I think the biggest thing for me was just content. Before I was even making music, I was a videographer and a cinematographer for like all my friends or whoever was in my neighborhood or in my city, or I was traveling to like shoot videos for people. And so when it came to making my music, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for content. I was probably making like 50 content pieces a month. Like,
when you say content though, you mean like a short film, you mean an Instagram video,
like videos,
cartoon, okay,
videos.
Got you. And where are you putting this content?
Mainly, well, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere.
Okay.
Like, yeah, anywhere where it made sense, you know?
Okay, anywhere it makes sense.
Instagram was a big thing. I would put out a video a week and I would just promote the video so much that like until everybody got tired of it. And then the next week I drop another one. So, and it didn't really matter which day. It was kind of like, it became an ongoing thing where people realized, oh, something's gonna happen this week, you know?
Something's coming from Coda.
Yeah, something's coming. We're gonna get something. And so, like, I started seeing my Instagram followers grow. Like, at first it was slow, it was like 75 to 100. And then it was like 500 a week. And then it was like 1,000 a week. And then it became like 1,000 a day, you know? Now it grows like maybe 1,000 something every couple days, and I think that's a strategy that always works. Just like put out content and promote the content. And it's like you need things that it's gonna catch somebody's eye. Like I realized on Instagram, like when I post a picture, it's like it'll get, a few thousand likes, but when I post a video with the hashtags, it goes crazy.
But it can feel you.
Like, and that's really the strategy, staying visible and leading it up to something. It has to go somewhere. It has to go from, if you're gonna put out a piece of content every month for 3 months, at the end of those 3 months, you have to be doing something. You have to be dropping a project, you have to be going on tour. Now people are interested and you can't just leave them hanging.
I was gonna add too, when I first started engineering, I did Lil Boat for Lil Yachty. Before he was on, like a way that I did, a lot of engineers and I think a lot of producers focus on the money too much up front. Like I got a saying that I like to use, it's called cash or credit, So if you're not getting cash for it, you need to be getting a good credit for it. You get what I mean?
Cash or credit, I like that.
So what I used to do is I would offer these engineers, like I had an internship, they gave me free studio time. So I would be like, yo, Lil Yachty, he had a couple songs with 100,000 plays out there. And I was like, yo, pull up on me, I do your music for free. And I was doing that for everybody. Like pull up, I do your music for free, And then next thing you know, he goes crazy and he furthers my connects because my name is attached to him. I also want to focus on while I got the floor is just knowing where your money is coming from. Always knowing where your money is coming from. I think a big point with SoundCloud and like different plays is a lot of people don't realize that after a play is played on a lot of these platforms, you can't get back pay. You know, you got to make sure you signed up for the right thing so you can get paid, because if you are, it could probably help you even do your music and put it out.
I wanted to hear any last words from you guys in regards to money and music.
like Jay Rich said, know where your money's coming from, but also understand the importance of relationships in the business, because there's a lot of relationships that will give you money before you even know it. Like, you could develop a relationship and have that relationship with somebody for years before you see a check, but the fact that you kept developing it and working at it and building, that a lot of times leads to the money, and that's where the money comes from. And I think it's always important to know how things are interconnected, especially in this business. Everything has some type of tie to it. So like, I work for a PRO, so I represent artists, but there's an engineer. The music has to sound right before it even comes out. And then you actually have a booking agent. You gotta actually be on your stuff to get booked. But then you actually have the actual artist that actually performs, whether you collab and he helps you springboard yourself, or you know, you guys work together to help each other, and then you have an actual platform where you put your music out. Like, everything is connected, and when you start working in the connectivity side of things, that's when you start seeing movement and things happen a lot faster for you.
Jay Rich?
I want to touch bases on him on that, because actually 4 years ago, this is the first SoundCloud panel, but 4 years ago, me and one of my friends that's in here, I bought us bus tickets, and I told him, like, yo, I got some meetings in New York. So we just took out a bus to New York. He didn't know that I ain't had nothing set up. As soon as I get to New York, I Googled all the offices, and one of them was SoundCloud. So I pull up in the SoundCloud office, I knock on the door, I'm like, yo, Lil Yachty told me to pull up, because I engineered on the song that gave me producer credit. Of course, I'm finessing. Next thing you know, it sets me up a meeting, you know? And now 4 years, now I'm on a panel. You get what I mean? So it's just networking and like not being afraid to like, don't be afraid to step out there, you know, whatever's unconventional. I always tell people, like, don't tell me what you did, just let me know when it's done. You know what I mean?
I guess for me, I'd say be prepared. Really sort of do your research, really sort of do your homework. Your friends and your family and your community aren't necessarily ready to hear you. The world probably isn't either. So there's power in your tribe, there's power in your community. So let them be your test dummies. Try it out, perfect it. Because once you step out into the world and people start to judge you, and it's a very prospective business, the first wrong step could very well be your last. So be really, really prepared in all the different avenues and take the time to prepare. There's nothing wrong with giving yourself time to prepare, giving yourself time to fail, but just prepare.
Focus on the money less when you're getting started. It's just make sure that your product is good, whatever you're doing. Make sure that your attitude is good, and make sure you're kind, and make sure that you're somebody that people want to work with, and make sure you're confident in what you have to say and who you are and what you can bring to the table, because if you're not, then people are going to sense it and they're going to jerk you around, and you're going to walk into these meetings and you're not going to know anything about anything, and they're going to know that. And so you have to know what you're talking about, and not only just with music, you have to know the business side. And that's for everybody. Everybody should know every side, and because everybody should be able to understand each other when you're working interdependently with other people and everything.
All right, we're gonna open the floor up a little bit. Do we have Mike? Ooh, we got lots of questions in the building.
My question revolves around cash or credit. You can all answer if you want. As a producer, would you recommend giving out beats to just start out? Or should you be about your business? Should you be more exclusive with artists? Let's say you don't have that first artist that you really want to work with. Is it good to email your beats out to a lot of different people?
My whole thing is like when you showcase your work, okay, let's say like a fashion show, those brands don't charge artists to wear their clothes. Like, they give it to them because it's going to promote and it's going to let other people know about the brand so they can go buy the brand. So when you're working with artists that have potential, like I know a lot of producers that like have messed up the whole placement by like, yo, we got this placement. Yo, what's the name? We finna get Meek Mill on it, whoop de whoop. oh, I want 5,000-10,000 for the beat. They just gonna find another beat or somebody else. Now you got a name like Metro Boomin, you could charge 500 for a beat. Very important, cash or credit, because you focusing too much on the money could mess you out of the whole play. You gotta remember, even with Offset, I was working at QC, but I had his number from just linking up with him one time when Yachty was like, yo, record Offset. But I texted him one day and I was like, yo, you ain't gotta worry about a penny. I will pull up wherever you at and record you.
I feel like a lot of times within the artist community, it's special, but I feel like the emphasis of it being special puts a lot on it. Whereas if you were to work a regular 9 to 5, you don't show up as a CEO. I don't care who you are. And so you got to intern a lot of times to get to the check. And it's
Great
almost
point.
like your internship. Giving out the beats is an internship. And you're building from there. And again, I've seen a lot of plays mess up because somebody assumed that they were supposed to get way more. Because artists, especially if they're at a high level of output, they literally would just move on to the next song. They wouldn't even think twice about it. Oh, because if I can write one of these, I can write 1,000 of these, and that's fine. And I don't have to deal with you. And so you got to invest, and it's just the law of give and take. You got to give something to get something.
And cash or credit applies to the booking side as well. Everyone's not a headliner. Someone has to be
You
support.
got to say that one again, because
Someone said it.
people don't understand.
Someone has to be support. And that's where you build your fan base. That's where you test the audience out, not on your back, not necessarily the pressure being on you as the headliner, but as support. But if the opportunity is right, the audience meets your audience, absolutely use that headliner, use those people buying those tickets to further your career. But that is a cash or credit situation. That's where credit comes into play. So that applies on the booking side as well, because trust and believe, again, everyone isn't a headliner.
How you doing? My name is Cedric Perry from Renaissance Music Records out of Jersey. And my question was Miss Pierre. My artist, Johnny Quest the Rebel, is growing his profile, and we think that we're ready to start taking on the market in terms of doing small shows. Would you give us any advice or any suggestions in terms of how to build that if you're starting out?
I'd say, look at the different venues in your market, look at their calendars. Local support is always something that tours usually look for. So do the outreach, do the homework, reach out to the bookers at those venues, put your music in front of them. If you haven't necessarily gone out to like an agency yet, there are very, local things that you can do. You can build your name in your town. Because I think for me, even dealing with local promoters, a lot of times the talent that I end up signing sometimes comes from a local promoter that says, hey, listen, this guy's been on a couple of shows. I know that I've tasked him with selling 50 to 100 tickets, and he's done that. Like, those are real tangible numbers. 50 to 100 tickets in a 500 cap room, that's substantial. Go to these venues, look at their calendars, look at like-minded shows, and actually put your information and put the artist's music in front of those bookers and try to get on those shows. If you're gonna start anywhere, start there.
Hello.
And it got to be
Hey,
a
get
good
the mic,
question,
get the
too.
My name's Katie. I do like management and creative direction and stuff on a smaller scale, building myself up. As far as like brand identity and I love how you talked about authenticity, because building a brand for an artist is always based on who they are, their authenticity. But then going forward, how important or what is the importance or where's the line between sticking to that brand identity or the brand consistency and then growing with the artist?
You never sway from who you are, Like, that's kind of my golden rule. No matter the money, no matter what. Because money is going to come and go, and who you are, that's forever. That's the only thing that matters. Because if you sell out because this is popping right now and this is the trend and, this is where it's going, a year from now, that's not going to be the trend no more. And then now you got to follow every trend, But if you kind of grow and you build, it's a slow build. It's a slow grind. And it has its peaks, And sometimes it's just steady. But the whole point is that you never plateau. It's like, and that's really what you never want to do. You never want to plateau. And it's like, so you always have to just kind of steady build. And then in 10 years, when you look back, you're going to be like, damn, we did all of that. And now we're at this great, amazing place. And you know what? We never had to sell out. And we never had to, fold to what was hot at the moment or fold to this label or that or do that. We stuck to our guns. And the whole squad is here. And everybody's eating. And everybody's happy. And you know, you done built something that could never be torn down, and you step to whoever you step to, it's like, yeah, we are who we are. We solid in everything that we say. You believe it and you trust it, and the people trust it. It's like a brand. It's like any brand, like Costco. You feel me? I know Costco gonna have it in bulk. They had it in bulk for years, decades. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that's it. Stick to it.
I think a lot of times people get lost because they don't have what they call brand non-negotiables. It's just things that you just are gonna do. Like, I don't care. Coke is
Great
always gonna have
point.
a red can, no matter what. So it doesn't matter what new flavors they try. It doesn't matter what else they give you. You know, the basic of Coke is the red can, and I feel like a lot of artists don't invest in non-negotiables. Like, if you look at, I think you should study people that have that, like an Anna Wintour for Vogue. Like, I don't care what she does, she's gonna have that bob cut, shades, and she's gonna look like
Glasses,
she's
yeah.
unapproachable, but she sticks to that no matter what time of the year, no matter what decade, she sticks to that aesthetic. And so I feel like the artists that have always surpassed and have lasted long have had those things that you just know for a fact, no matter what, that's what they're stuck with and that's what they stick to. And they evolve on it, but they still have the underlining brand non-negotiables that they stick to regardless of what is going on in the world. That's their compass, their North Star. Because we always see artists that try to change and be like, damn, he fell off. And that's because he lost his way, don't know what's going on, and it's not the same anymore. And it's crazy. So non-negotiables.
The whole brand identity and authenticity thing, you're selling that to someone. So that is how your fans are going to sort of dial into you, and those are like long-term fans, and you have stands and things of that nature, and you have to stick to your guns because realize that the consumer will figure out whether or not you're a fake or not. And once they figure that out, you know, it's hard to sort of rebuild that trust.
Thank y'all for your time, first of all. And thank you guys for listening. Such a great classroom for the first session.